The Box Bet Pod is brought to you by RX Water and Round by Round Boxing. Make sure to get your RX Water on Amazon. Episode 8 of the Box Bet Pod. We are back. I'm Alex Burgos, editor-in-chief of Round by Round Boxing. We got Versace Poppy. Vlad, what's good, my man? I gave you a week off, so, we weren't in last week. We're back. You should feel refreshed, rejuvenated. You didn't get around to meeting with Jamel Herring with me this week, but I ate my crow for you. And I told him, look, man, I picked Carl Frampton, and I have to be straight up with you. Amazing performance. And he took it in stride. He laughed it off. But we'll interject some of those sound bits and bites on this podcast, because what we're focusing on today is Canelo Alvarez versus Billy Joe Saunders, which goes down tonight. We're very excited. Super fight. This is one of those Super Bowls for boxing. Anytime Canelo Alvarez fights, but it's not Avni Yildirim. This is actually a champion, Billy Joe Saunders, undefeated. The Gypsies and the Travelers, they got plenty of heart. He's got Tyson Fury behind him. A lot of storyline and build up this week. Endless amounts of stuff that we could talk about. We're going to get down to the nitty gritty and the odds. And actually, it is 3:40 on Saturday on fight day, Eastern time here. And things have kind of, moved around a little bit, at least from yesterday and the day before when I was speaking with Jamel. But what I'm looking at right now, before I kick it to you, Vlad, is we have Billy Joe Saunders at a plus 460, whereas yesterday he was at plus 550 I was looking at, and then Canelo Alvarez right now at a minus 620. So take it away. Let me know how you see this fight going down, what your thoughts are on the whole storyline build up, and I will do the same.
Alex, by the way, you forgot to mention something. What are our respective records? Who's done better since we started this little shindig?
I'll give you your props, man. You've got the better record. I want to say you're like 9-2.
Maybe. And the two losses were BS losses anyway. Those are from Adelaide.
You know exactly what our records are. You're just trying to get me to.
Those are some Adelaide Bird losses. Listen, Alex. It is a big fight. It is a big fight. But I'm excited for other reasons. I'm excited because we have a full crowd expected in Texas Stadium tonight, Jerry's World, to watch Canelo against BJ Saunders. I'm excited about that. Starting to feel a little bit of normalcy. It's a decent card, but it's not a very strong undercard, not a very strong chief support. People don't really know those fighters. But you do have Canelo against BJ Saunders, and it is a good fight. So, look, I'm going to just come right out and say I believe Canelo Alvarez wins this fight. The reason that the odds are changing is that there's money coming in on Billy Joe, as there should be. He's a sizable underdog. You can make good money. You put $100 down or $1,000 down. That's a pretty hefty return on an undefeated two-time, two-weight division world champion. So money should come in on Billy Joe, because Canelo will eventually lose again. He lost to Mayweather, and he's had a couple of close calls. He will lose again, but it's not going to be tonight. So I do believe Canelo is going to win. The question is, for people, entertainment purposes, hypothetically, if they want to figure out, how to play, fantasy, how does the fight end? That I don't know. I really don't know. And I'll get into kind of what I think, but I don't want anyone to follow me in this case, even though Versace Vlad, Versace Poppy, King Versace, is good at this stuff, but I don't want anyone to follow me, because I just don't know how it's going to go. But I want to ask you a question before I get into it. Alex, who is Shifat Isifu?
No idea.
Shifat Isifu. Shifat Isifu, no disrespect to him, but Shifat Isifu is the man that Billy Joe Saunders defeated to win the vacant WBO super middleweight title that he has, that's on the line tonight. So I think that's important to know. Billy Joe's resume is good. And you're right, this is not Canelo's previous opponent. Billy Joe is very good, but he beat that gentleman, Isifu, to win the WBO title in 2019. I don't know who that is, and I don't know much about it. I just know it's a pretty easy, clean sweep for Billy Joe. However, there's no question that Billy Joe Saunders is a great fighter. So Billy Joe is going to come in with about 3.5 inch height advantage over Canelo. I mean, that's important. Size matters. 2 fights ago, we had someone that had an even larger height advantage. As much as Billy Joe's taller than Canelo, the reach is only about 1 inch. So that might not disrupt Canelo as much when he needs to get on the inside and do his work on the body. Here's what Billy Joe has. So Billy Joe's a southpaw. Canelo's fought Erislandy Lara and gave Canelo all sorts of fits about 7 years ago. And Canelo came away with a very, very slight victory. And then he fought Austin Trout. And Austin Trout was a little bit easier victory for Canelo, but still Austin Trout was in that fight. Southpaw again. The other thing that Billy Joe has for him is that he's just got a great jab. It's one of the best jabs in the business. And Billy Joe has some really good head movement. Really good head movement. He can go backwards, can go side, so he can evade a lot of that stuff. What Billy Joe's not going to be able to evade is body shots. What he's not going to be able to avoid is if Canelo cuts the ring off and wants to hit him. So this is going to be Canelo's night. Again, the question is, how's this going to go down? I believe Canelo's not the same fighter that he was when he fought Lara or Trout or when he fought Kovalev at this point. It's not the same guy. I believe Eddie Reynoso is not the same trainer as he was back then. I believe Eddie Reynoso is the best trainer in boxing today by a hair over Derrick James. Like those two to be are themselves. What they've done in the sport and the fighters that they have with them. Those are the best. So anyone that's got Eddie Reynoso on their corner, Ryan Garcia, Andy Ruiz, Oscar Valdez, and of course Canelo, I will actually go on that side. That is a big check mark right there for what that coach has done. With that all being said, Canelo's going to win. I think in the mid to late rounds, Canelo will try to get a stoppage. I'm going to go on the limb here and say I think Canelo wins by decision tonight. Not because he can't stop him, not because he won't stop him. I think Billy Joe is a bigger guy. I think this is about legacy. This is about wins. I think beating Billy Joe soundly is going to be satisfying enough for Canelo. I think getting the belt, getting Billy Joe and getting him out is going to be satisfying enough for Canelo and his team. So I think he wins soundly. If the knockout is there, he's going to take it. If the body shots crumble Billy Joe is going to go down. I do believe Billy Joe is durable. You know, the thing I want to point to is, and it's a good fight to look at when breaking this down, is David Lemieux and Billy Joe. That's a masterclass boxing. So when Tyson Fury's been saying to anyone who talked to him this week that we're going to see a masterclass in boxing, that was a masterclass. And he shut David Lemieux out, embarrassed David Lemieux. And David Lemieux, yeah, he's had a good moment since then, you know, with a monster knockout of Curtis Stevens. But I mean, that really was that exposed David Lemieux more than Gennady Golovkin. Gennady Golovkin just outsmoked him. But what Billy Joe did was actually expose him for being maybe 3-4 boxing levels below Billy Joe Saunders. It was actually easy and criminal. Canelo's not David Lemieux. And Billy Joe Saunders is not Erislandy Lara. I think pound for pound, prime versus prime, I'm going with Erislandy Lara as a better fighter than Billy Joe Saunders. I think Erislandy Lara is one of the best that we've ever seen. He's just that good. He sees things differently. It's just reflexes that you can't do anything about it. Like Lomachenko tries to play with reflexes, but Lara has those reflexes. She can't do anything about those reflexes. It's just Python reflexes that you're born with. Canelo's going to win the fight tonight. I don't think Canelo has much trouble. I think Billy Joe knows that Canelo's going to win the fight tonight. I think Billy Joe's doing what Billy Joe does. I don't believe in the ring controversy of 18 inches, 20 inches, 22 inches, 24 inches. None of that stuff really matters. That's why Canelo doesn't care. That doesn't matter. Will there be more room for Billy Joe to work? Yes, but not much, actually. Not much. And you still have to engage. Mm-hmm. That stuff's not going to matter. That's Billy Joe getting mind games, getting in his head, and that's really good. The only thing I would be a little bit worried about is the Reggie Miller moment. There could be a Reggie Miller moment here. Billy Joe is that guy that if you boo him and curse at him and throw things at him and stick your middle finger at him, he likes that.
Yeah, it's going to bring him up to another.
Oh, he loves that. That motivates him. If you cheer for him, like, go Billy Joe, come on, Billy Joe. It's like, I don't know if that resonates with him. That's not what he's about. If you boo him and curse at him and cheer the other guy, that actually gets him going. I would be worried about that.
A la Tyson Fury.
Yeah, I would be worried about that. A la Reggie Miller.
Right.
You know, Reggie Miller, I mean, you just boo him and it's like, that's it. You know, spinach power activated.
Right.
That is a long way, Alex, for me to say that Canelo Alvarez wins again. He is the best fighter in the sport. Okay. He's the best boxer in the sport today on any continent in the professional ranks. He's the best boxer and he's going to win tonight. I believe you could put the official pick on our little fantasy scoreboard. I believe it'll be a decision, but I really know if he knocks him out, I'll be like, yeah, he should knock him out because he's got the body shots to drop him. And we've never seen Billy Joe get hit and take those punches. So I think that he probably could stop him, but I think I will give Billy Joe the benefit that he's got the durability and the cardio, and he's a gifted boxer and he's a gifted athlete, that Billy Joe can go to different distance. And I think that Canelo would be okay with that because it's about another W, get that next belt, and let's look forward to Caleb Plant or whatever's next.
Yeah, you mentioned a lot of great points. I don't agree with them all, but I will touch on some of them. But no, very high-level stuff that you're discussing, and you've obviously done your homework, so I appreciate that. You mentioned one of the things was Billy Joe Saunders against David Lemieux. I almost feel like it would be better if Lemieux would have been able to actually touch Billy Joe Saunders. We'd know, okay, he can overcome some adversity. He can take a big punch. But, man, he was just spot on A+ that night, and just Lemieux was, like you were saying, 3 or 4 levels below. So one thing that would give me, if I was a betting man putting money on Billy Joe Saunders, one thing that would make me feel good is I know that Billy Joe Saunders can go above the level of the fight against Martin Murray, or he can go above the level of, some of these other fights that he's had. When he gets to that motivation and that level where he's like, okay, there's a guy in front of me that may be able to beat me, David Lemieux, Canelo Alvarez, then I'm going to take it up one notch, because you've seen the fat Billy Joe Saunders. You've seen the guy that's just going through the motions and is good enough talent-wise to get through that. But tonight, he's going to be in shape. He's going to be mentally prepared with A+ game plan. So it's all going to be right there for him. He's bringing it. He's got what you said, the animosity and the angst of the crowd going against him. He's built up. He loves that. He's been poking fun at everyone that he can this week, and people don't like it. He's been making fun of reporters, the Mexican reporters. There's that came out, that video. He's been making fun of Canelo. I mean, anything that he can do to antagonize the other side and then get those people to just like double come back at him and be like, well, we really hate you. He feeds off of that, like you said. So don't feel like that's going to rattle him at all. So that almost just makes it more interesting and builds up the storyline. Like you said, late money is coming in on Billy Joe Saunders. My betting suggestion when we spoke about this a few weeks ago, when we just touched upon it, when we spoke with David Benavidez, was Canelo by decision, because it was like a +200 at that point, which now today it's at a -110. So when I put my money down a couple weeks ago, it was +200 for Canelo to win by decision. I'm sticking with that. That's my official pick, Canelo by decision. I think that Canelo wins, but it's going to be difficult within the first half of the fight. It's interesting to look at Canelo Alvarez's career, because he's gone through a bunch of different changes, a bunch of different, kind of progression. We started out seeing him as a young guy. He had been rocked before by Jose Miguel Cotto. He fought a old Shane Mosley, Baldemir, those fights. And then he progressed, you could even say like the Lara fight, the Triple G fight, that's another Canelo. And then you were saying the Kovalev fight, that's another Canelo. I mean, he's just been a different guy. So which Canelo are we going to get? Because one thing I will say is he's never cut off the ring exceptionally well, and especially against Trout and Lara, but those are years ago. So one thing, when you mentioned Eddie Reynoso, they better have prepared well and correctly to cut off the ring. And like you said, I don't care if it's 18 20, 22 feet, doesn't matter. And Jamel Herring made a point on that. He's like, look at the ring that I had against Carl Frampton, against Okendo. He's like, you could get it all in one shot. You know, the ring was so small. He was like, and I had to do what I had to do.
To me, it's too much of a big gap.
Okay.
That's too much of a big gap. I'm not even like a betting man, but like DJ ain't no easy work. Even though you could maybe say whatever about his other performances, whatever, but it's like some fighters when they get to a certain level or a certain fight, they come out, you know, at their best. You know what I mean? Like they perform at their best. And like DJ is also one of those fighters who's been asking for this fight for a while now too. So it's like, I don't know about those odds. I mean, of course, I'll say that, you know, Canelo is definitely the favorite, but like, I don't think it's gonna be a fight where anyone's gonna get blown out. Or I don't even see anybody getting knocked out. You know what I mean? That's why I think that's why the whole thing came about with the ring incident, yada yada yada. But nah, man, I think, of course, I would side with Canelo, but I think it'd be a lot tighter than what they have it on paper.
So if you had to tell us who your prediction is, I'm assuming you're saying Canelo decision?
Oh yeah, because by decision.
Okay.
By decision, sure.
And is that ring, all that stuff is just probably just head games and all that good stuff?
Man, listen, it's more likely it's just head games, because I tell you right now, you know me, I've been a boxer since the Olympics, but like my best performances came, you know, in small rings. When I fought Ito, that was a tiny ass ring. The last fight with Carl Frampton, you know, you see in one screenshot, you see the whole ring. You know what I mean?
Looked like the Triller ring.
Yeah, exactly. There was no pan. There was no need for panning.
Right.
You just right there. That one camera just right on the whole ring. But so like, yeah. I mean, sometimes it could just be head games, because like I said, look at it. For instance, you seen how annoyed Canelo was third thing, you know, after that. You know, he cursed the motherfuckers out.
Right.
In English.
So it's not that big of a deal when you're talking about that size change. But Billy Joe Saunders is going to go in there and move. His best chance is to put on, like Tyson Fury said, a masterclass, a boxing clinic. And that's how he's going to probably make the fight interesting within the first 6 rounds, I think. I don't think Canelo goes in there and washes him. I don't think he goes in there and stops him. But if he does, I want to kick this question to you. Canelo Alvarez stops Billy Joe Saunders. Best victory of his career. True or false? You got a prime champ, and he's going to stop him.
Yeah. Yes, it'll be the best victory of his career, because he's never going to get full credit for the first Triple G victory. Right. And because Sergey
the draw, and then the victory that he got over him. Yeah, neither of those are like, wow, you know, Canelo has arrived. No, those were razor thin, and you still got people talking about it today. Posted something yesterday, and people like Golovkin could be 45, and people are saying, well, we want to see that last one just to make sure.
You know, I want to consider is amongst media, like no one's really picking Billy Joe to win.
No, but he's a live dog. But what I'm saying is that's because Canelo is so good. But if you look back at his resume, is there anyone that, and even Saunders has said it, tons of people have said it. The knock on Canelo is he hasn't beat these names at the pinnacle, at the height of their career. So yeah, he's beaten Mosley. But the guys that he has beat have been like razor thin, like the Laras, Triple G. So if he knocks one of these guys out, a champion, a top level guy, an undefeated guy in his prime, like Billy Joe Saunders is, I don't think you can argue that it's his best victory.
I was going to say, like I said, like we don't see many people choosing Billy Joe to win this fight. We did see some people picking Callum Smith to win the fight. He's simply just too big, too large, and it was actually a very easy one-sided affair. So it would be like that, like. If he knocks Billy Joe out, yeah, I think you make a case. You definitely make a case that's the biggest victory of his career. But a lot of people are going to say, yeah, I knew. I didn't know if he was going to stop him, but yeah, I knew he was going to win. I think the Callum Smith victory, people are just like, I mean, that guy's just too big. That guy is 6'2".
Yeah.
Like, come on, that guy's 6'2", and he actually has the reach over Canelo. I don't know about that. So, but yeah, I think that I think it will probably rise to being his biggest victory to date if he knocks him out. I just don't like that part of the question, and not towards you, by the way, but he shouldn't have to knock the person out or win by decision for it to be the biggest victory of his career. Like,
right. And I'm just trying to look at a different narrative here because I think it changes the conversation if he beats Billy Joe like he did Lara, if he beats Billy Joe like he did Triple G, because, you know, even though you could argue that he definitely did beat him in the second fight, which I don't agree with, but you could argue that it's still not that dominant victory over a champion in his prime. Like, you got to look back. And then, of course, like the Floyd fight, he got outclassed. So that's the type of victory I'm looking for him to have over a guy like Billy Joe Saunders, where we could be wrong, because if he's motivated to do that and he said 10 or under, I'll stop him. That's what he's gunning for. So I don't think we've ever seen Canelo, like, against the opposition of this level, be able to come through and say, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that. And then it gets done. Obviously, he said, I'm going for the knockout. I can hurt Golovkin. Like, it just didn't happen because Golovkin's, you know, a beast in his own right. So I will be super impressed. And the Caleb Smith fight, I give him credit for. Caleb Smith was a very worthy champion. He won the Boxing Super Series.
But Callum Smith may have lost his fight before then.
Yeah, against John Ryder. Yeah, so
he probably lost it, and I don't like to, you know, recalibrate scorecards, but, you know, he may have lost that fight, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
and Canelo might have lost a few other ones too. So you can make that argument. But to circle back around, you know, my pick is on par with yours. Canelo by decision, but there are definitely some possibilities where we could see some different outcomes, and it just depends. I know David Benavidez mentioned to us he thinks that Saunders will make it interesting early, but then he'll fade. His legs will get tired because he's going to be moving a lot.
Yeah, I feel like the Canelo and Billy Joe Saunders is going to be a great fight. You know, it's going to be a very tactical fight in the beginning. You know, Billy Joe Saunders is not going to stay in one place. So if he can move for 12 rounds, he could get Canelo a lot of big problems. But I feel like, you know, his legs going to get stiff after, you know, the 8th, 9th round. So I feel like, you know, the body work that Canelo has, you know, the way, you know, he changes from uppercuts to hooks to body shots, you know, is going to be very dangerous for him. So it's going to be a good fight until it lasts, where I feel like Canelo is going to eventually end up stopping him.
And those odds are minus 620 for Canelo. So you'd have to put $620 to get 100 back on Canelo, and plus 460 for Billy Joe Saunders. You think that's fair, or should it be a little bit wider?
Yeah, I think it's fair, only because we know what Canelo's, you know, what he's accomplished and all, how he's been looking lately. And, you know, I feel like those odds are fair.
So that's another thing to consider, that can he keep up?
We've never seen Saunders get tired or fail.
Right. So I don't know if it's like maybe the constant pressure, the intelligent pressure, the effective aggression from Canelo, which he's going to have to do.
You know, when you look at, there was a fight on the, I think it was the Logan Paul. Was it the Logan Paul show that Billy Joe fought on?
Yeah.
So when you look at that fight,
KSI.
and he had just won the title from Isifu. He fought Marcelo Caceres in that fight. That was not a good performance by Billy Joe Saunders. He got the decision, but he just did not look motivated, did not look like he really wanted to be there. I don't know if he didn't train, overtrained, mistrained, was hurt. I mean, I don't know. It was in Staples Center. It was just a wild crowd. And it was not Billy Joe's best moment. It wasn't Devin Haney's best moment that night. Just tough fights. And I remember the narrative was, you have so many new eyes on the sport. You have a chance to kind of steal some fans over to your side. And Devin Haney surely didn't do it. He was hurt afterward. He went to surgery immediately after. And Billy Joe Saunders didn't do it.
Yeah, they both struck out
on
night.
that card. Yeah, I think the last two fights were Billy Joe and Devin Haney before Logan Paul and KSI. And Logan Paul and KSI, for all the haters out there, was the most interesting card, the most interesting fight on the card, the most exciting fight on the card, for all the haters out there. Yes, you can at me, Versace Poppy. You know, yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened in Staples Center. KSI won, and it was more interesting than the Billy Joe Saunders fight, and it was more interesting than the Devin Haney fight.
All right, that's another podcast. That's a different storyline. But I will say that
Logan Paul and Floyd Mayweather, man.
That night, yeah, after the fight, I mean, because Saunders was, petitioning for a Canelo fight, but it was almost like he was embarrassed. He's like, look, I know I look like shit, but give me a chance against Canelo. I'll be better. And then so here we are. His second chance, in fact, because the first one got wiped out by COVID and the pandemic. But, he's made good on his word, at least up to this point. He looks the part. He looks in shape. He looks prepared. He's playing all the mind games that he can. And it's been fun to watch.
Last thing I want to say about this is we were supposed to get Billy Joe Saunders against Demetrius Andrade in Massachusetts and Boston, right? It didn't happen. And stuff happens. I would have, and again, the two tacticians fighting usually doesn't make for an interesting fight, but I would like to have seen how that played out. And that would go a long way to know if we even have a fight tonight.
Right.
And it may be Boo-Boo in there tonight, or it would be a whole different level of Billy Joe with different odds. So that fight robbed us a lot.
Agreed. Yeah. So, I'm glad that he's finally actually in the position where he's going to walk in. We're on fight day. So, there's been a lot of talk, of the Andrade fight that fell through and this and that, and the first Canelo fight that fell through. But it's good to finally see Saunders, not past his best days, which I don't think he is, but getting this opportunity. Let's see what you could do, man. You got the best, you got the pound for pound king right in front of you, with the opportunity, 3 belts on the line. So let's see what happens. We will update our records for everyone so they can see, and we'll see who wins this one. The Box Bet Pod is brought to you by RX Water and Round by Round Boxing. Make sure to get your RX Water on Amazon.